This is Hogwarts Legacy. We're here on Xbox Series X, taking a look at the game as of 2025, ahead of the definitive edition release that's supposed to be happening. That will take the game a little bit further. Be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well. We're going to be talking about the many different visual modes, just some of the quality of life improvements and where the game is at this current point in time. And of course, down the road, we will of course revisit this with the definitive edition content. If you want to watch me go through the whole game, we have a stream, or well, a series of streams where I actually play through and enjoy the magic of Hogwarts Legacy. It's quite a fun time, and I'm looking forward to new content to dive into, and of course a follow-up down the road. Cool, so we've got a bazillion visual modes. Some of them you have to restart the game to look at, so let's dive in and start talking about those. So this is the, this is the ray trace mode. So you go to settings, and this game's actually pretty future-proofed, which is great. We've got 5 different visual settings: fidelity with ray tracing, performance, balance, and HFR, which is high frame rate. You've also got the option to uncap the frame rate of the game if you'd so like to do so, and have film grain on or off. But yeah, if you do want the game to kind of get a little bit of a, wonkier performance, I guess you could try to do it uncapped, and the choice is totally up to you. So the ray trace mode is a 1440p, targeting 30 FPS with the ray traced reflections and shadow elements. So kind of cool that that exists, and that is an option. And again, you can uncap it, but again, you can uncap everything, but it's just an option, right? And there's HDR support across the board as well. So then we've got fidelity mode, which you would have to reboot to do, and performance mode, which you'd have to reboot to do. So we're gonna reboot good old fidelity. It used to just take you back to the main menu if you wanted to. It's kind of odd that that is not an option. So it's just probably faster to just close it unless I pressed a button wrong or something. Anyways, so yeah, Hogwarts Legacy set in the 1800s. A student that you make. Something went wrong. That's lovely. You are a student that you create. You get to pick your house that you kind of go through, or have the sorting hat sort you. You make choices, and you go through a large-scale role-playing adventure with an incredibly lengthy narrative, and then an extensive outer world filled with various fetch quests. And no, like the side and outer world of the game is a little lackluster, but the main meat of the experience is actually a true blast, and it's a lot of fun to enjoy the game. As you go through its story, you meet all the different characters, and go through different levels of schooling and education within the world of Hogwarts. I mean, it's kind of a neat offering for sure. So for the quality mode, it's 1800p, 30 FPS targeting, and yeah, obviously you get a much better visual presentation, and you just kind of drop the ray tracing in order to achieve that, which is kind of neat. And again, you can go and there's options to uncap stuff. And don't worry, we'll be running around. I've just got to go through the 4 billion, again, graphical modes. As I said, a lot of this stuff, it's it's future-proofing is your options here. So that's kind of the cool thing, is down the road you're going to be able to have, say, a next-gen Xbox, a really, really intensive experience for this one. And I mean, they'll probably update it too. So keep that in mind as well, is that they will probably update things further. So for balanced mode, we're turning on to balanced mode here. Balanced mode is 1800p at 40 FPS as far as the target. So you do need a TV that supports that, 120Hz display to do the 40 FPS. And this is basically just giving you the higher quality, a little bit more frame rate, and giving you something that is evened and leveled out. So it should look basically the same as what we just saw, but slightly more fluid and better, because 40 FPS, which is becoming one of my favorite game modes in this generation of gaming. It's really, really cool to have. It's a nice balanced option. And then we have high frame rate mode here. So high frame rate mode is kind of kicking this bad boy all the way up. So it drops the resolution all the way down, 1080p, but You get above 60 FPS. This is like more like 80 FPS. You know, it depends on the scenario, what's happening, what's going on. Obviously, the visual fidelity drops like just a ton. You make all these sacrifices, but you get a super smooth, high frame rate experience if that is something that you want to enjoy. And you will notice when you go here that by default the frame rate cap is gone because it's high frame rate. And finally, performance, which is the mode I would recommend you play. Performance mode is 1440p at 60 FPS. Pretty cool, right? It runs relatively well,
I should come back to this,
which is great. It looks pretty good visually, and it's a nice way to play the game. And it's, I believe, I played the whole game through basically on this mode when I was working through it and streaming it. But yeah, Hogwarts Legacy is a magical experience, one that is filled to the brim with excitement as you get to ride a broomstick and enjoy the magic of Hogwarts. It's really quite cool for someone that is a fan of the movies. I would say this recreates it beautifully and allows you to explore Hogwarts. If you're a fan of the books, same sort of thing. That place that you always envision through reading comes alive. If you're someone that doesn't care at all about Harry Potter or anything like that, the game is still pretty amazing. So this is an experience where you could look at it from a perspective of throwing out the idea of Harry Potter. It's like, oh, you know, you gotta like Harry Potter to play this. Not at all. If you just think of the game as basically a magic RPG, like a game where you're just being a wizard or witch or whatever, you're just being a magical individual, and you just want a role-playing game where you go to school and get to have some adventures and do some cool magical stuff, that's what this game is. You really genuinely do not need to know or care about Harry Potter or anything at all. You don't need to have watched any movies, you don't need to have, well, read any of the books. You don't need any of that. You can just come in here and have a great time. Oh, Quidditch, how I wish they hadn't split you off to make you a weird game that nobody played that died and burned. Oh, the pain. Hopefully they bring it back like it should have been. Anyways, yeah, so you just get to come in and you get to be a student, and you kind of like they fast track you basically, and then you come out into the world, you get your different spells, you unlock more spells, you get to explore, you get to go to Hogwarts, the grounds, Hogsmeade, the land beyond. The game is really big, but that's what I was kind of saying is like the open world is just kind of like all this stuff. It's kind of like pointless, if that makes sense. Like it's a weird thing to say, but like it doesn't really matter. Like none of it really adds anything to your experience. So like when you, I guess you would say like play it, you're not really taking, like you go to places, like it's an open world game, so you'll travel to places, you'll go places, you'll see them throughout your story, blah blah blah. But like a lot of the open world, it's just kind of boring, kind of like, oh, there's a slate, do this 4 billion times, oh, do this 4 billion times. It just doesn't really add much to the game, and I don't get the point of it. Like I would have much rather had a more focused narrative, or more focused, lengthier narrative. The story is long enough. Like it is a very long game, for sure. Okay, I need to switch my various skills. Oh no, I do not need to do that. So, don't worry, I'll work on this. It's been a while. So you're supposed to match the abilities to what they have. So if they have yellow, you hit yellow. If they have red, you hit red. You know, vice versa, vice versa. There's like all these other spells that can pop up too, like the unforgivable spells and curses, and that's the whole thing. But yeah, basically what I was saying is I would have rather they had like a more tightened, dense kind of environment, because it just, like, it really doesn't make sense how, I'm totally out of healing stuff. You have all these areas that just don't add anything, and I don't know if they were expecting to expand the story further down the road or something, but, like, it just, I don't know. It just kind of felt a little pointless, because you have all this area you don't do anything in, and it's like, well, you know, what's the point of that? Which some people will like, and some people will find a bit strange, but you know, it's totally up to you and how you want to approach the game. I deserve that. That's on me for not being spell ready. It's been a bit. Okay. Yeah. Better gear. I've got the swag gear on. I don't need anything else. And then you have all these like spells. So these are my like abilities. Like these are potions I have, and then you can see I have like creatures I can roam in on. But then you've also got like a wheel of like these ability wheels. So it's like, you know, you got this, and that. But then you can kind of switch them so you have different settings. And when you really get into it and you're really kind of flowing, you're basically kind of just throwing off all these cool magical abilities, and it's very you know, Wizarding World of Hogwarts kind of like, in the sense that, you know, you are doing the abilities as you should be to unleash them upon others. Like, that was an unforgivable spell. And see, that's the problem I was doing the first time, is I just wasn't setting up my skills properly. There we go. And then this guy, you could do this. It's like, yeah. I'm gonna absolutely just annihilate these guys now. See? That's the difference between not knowing what you're doing in terms of spell casting, and then immediately coming back and being like, okay, here's the proper spells. And you set that up. You set up your little spell wheel, and then you're able to create like little spells for different tasks. Like sometimes they're not all like combative spells. They're not all violent spells. Sometimes you are basically using stuff that will help you lift things in the environment or repair things in the environment. And if you've, you know, watched Engaged with Harry Potter, it's really cool seeing those all come alive. If you haven't, you just get to be a student, a young talent that comes in, learns all these cool abilities, and does all this crazy magic stuff, and that in itself is quite a delightful time. The secondary supplementary characters are quite fun. You get to go on little adventures with them and make choices along the way. Some of the integrations felt a little, you know, forced in terms of like, oh, you gotta hang out with this person or that person, but it makes sense because they're part of the actual main narrative. I say that because it's like, sometimes it's like, oh, you know, you're like, you do one directional thing and all of a sudden you're just like buddy-buddy with other people and you're like, huh? But it makes, you get what I'm saying when you play the game and that. But it's all lovely, honestly. Like, it is a very, you know, lovely experience. It's lots of fun. It's filled to the brim with action and excitement and twists and turns and a really fun little bit of a mystery, a little bit of a story. Ancient magic. You get to learn more about the history of the grounds and the school and all that, if you care. You might not, depends on your intrigue of the game, but it really is quite a wondrous, well-done experience. Like, it's something where the main campaign, I think, is like well over like 20-something hours, and then, you know, you could spend dozens and dozens of hours going around doing miscellaneous side things. And then the game's got a whole, like, child garden kind of thing going on, where basically you can, like, if you're not familiar with that, it's like from Sonic, where it's like, you're able to basically grow creatures. Like, there's a whole, like, animal husbandry kind of, like, mating thing built in there. And then there's all these gear systems based around, you know, collecting different gear and exploring different places. This game really is just ridiculously big and expansive, and it's exciting too. Like, you can spend countless, and I mean countless hours going and doing things. It really, really is just absolutely fantastic. And if you wanted to, if you wanted to, you could replay it, pick a different house, and the game's not exactly gonna be, like, completely different, but the game will be different enough that, like, it will feel a little fresh. Like, you'll have a different house that you're a part of, which is really cool, because the big part of Harry Potter is the house that you end up in. And you have, like, a different dorm room, and it just kind of changes your interactions a little bit. I'm hoping when they build upon this, they do double down on, like, choice and character interactions, and like, I know it's about Hogwarts and its legacy, but it would be cool if they do eventually, like, the greater Wizarding World would be pretty fun if we get to explore different places outside of the realms of, you know, I guess Hogwarts and stuff like that. The potential for this series, and it will definitely be a series, I think is rather endless. And I can't wait to see what they hopefully do with it down the road, but it's always exciting to dive back into this. And it's also, it's not too hard, like there is a good amount of challenge, but it's not too ridiculous. Anyone that wants to play this and enjoy it, I think definitely will be able to. There'll just be a couple of spots that might be a little bit more challenging than other spots, because it is a role-playing game, so you are meant to level up in that. There were some parts that were a little annoying in the sense that, like, you had to get specific stuff to go do other stuff, and it was like, oh, but I just want to do this, and, you know, you gotta do these classes in order to get places and stuff, and yeah. It's quite neat. It really is. It's a very, very neat game. And it was just like a blast sitting through it and like streaming it, and I think it was like a few days of like effort basically, but it was well worth the time. I think anyone that dives in and enjoys this, again, anyone that's an actual like Harry Potter fan or someone that really doesn't even care about Harry Potter at all, I think you can just have an excellent time experiencing this game. And they've done some good improvements to this as well, which is kind of like why, to a degree, that we're here, is it's like, they've done upgrades, they've changed things over time. You know, it's been it's been years or whatever, and you know, I visited on the PlayStation 5 Pro recently, and I was like, you know what, it is time that we come back and we take a look
Slow down now.
at this experience and talk about it from a perspective of it having been a while, and you know, we're doing all these updates on older things and diving into them, but it really is just like a genuinely magical experience. The creatures you get, the things you get to do, I think it really does nail that wonder and excitement really quite perfectly well. And like, it does look pretty good, and you know, like performance-wise and visuals, they've done really great work on, you know, kind of enhancing this. Like, it wasn't bad when I played it, but there definitely was like, you know, there were some technical things here or there, and yeah, I don't know, it's been pretty magical seeing this one be as big of a title as it was, and obviously it was fun covering it too. And I even did like if you missed that, I did an Xbox One review of this a while back, and that in itself was kind of like really genuinely entertaining to see it, like basically like the roughest of it, if that makes sense, because it's like, yeah, that one definitely, I don't know if it should be running on those consoles, but it is amazing that it actually is able to. But yeah, they got all the small things right. I guess just like a big thing I'd be missing is, I'm shocked that there hasn't been, you know, a DLC or anything yet. And that's where I kind of mentioned that, like, obviously there's, you know, we know there's like a definitive edition coming, so like it's gonna be expanded upon, it's gonna be better. Hopefully some meaty new story to enjoy, and that'll be fun, and we'll showcase that, of course, when it happens. But yeah, it's just weird to not capitalize on such a massively successful game such as this one. It just feels weird, because it's like, really? You know, this game was such a big success, it was so much fun to play. And it's like, I wish I had an excuse to, you know, sit here and play more of it. Yeah, is that like a thing? Isn't there one where there's that's the elephant one? I think there's supposed to be one where you're doing like a hawk and you're like, caw. That's what I was kind of hoping for. Flaw stuff. Yeah, I could have sworn it was like a caca thing. They get all the little magical bits of this just right. It really is like, it just brings this world to life, and you can interact with it like none of the other Harry Potter games were ever really able to do. Except for maybe like Lego, but this is obviously a big step beyond that for sure. Anyways, it's kind of neat to dive back into it, talk about it. The cool shops, the cool things. There's not much more that I would really want out of this game. And yeah, there's still some little bits here or there where performance isn't like 100%, but you know what, that kind of leaves things in a fun spot for a future Xbox console down the road, not too far down the road, to come in and deliver a little bit more for this game. But I do imagine this would still probably be something that would get updated like it was for the Pro, but we'll have to wait and see. And of course, have a fun time out in Hogwarts Legacy. For whatever reason you haven't dove back into it or dove into it for the first time, maybe this is a good wake-up call for you to go in and enjoy the magic of Hogwarts Legacy. which is just one incredible journey and one amazing role playing game. Like, just absolutely incredible.